What happens when the person you depend on for comfort is also someone you can't depend on emotionally? As a child, I learned that love could disappear without warning. I also learned that when I was frightened or distressed, I had to handle those feelings on my own. I didn't have the words to explain what I was experiencing back then. I only knew that going to my mother didn't bring me the comfort I needed. Sometimes I was dismissed. Sometimes I was left feeling as though my needs and fears didn't matter as much as my siblings' needs and fears. So how can growing up as the family scapegoat shape what you expect from relationships? And how can those early experiences affect the attachment style you carry into adulthood? Welcome to Lessons for Life with Grandma Kate. If you're done with people-pleasing, tired of repeating the same patterns, and ready to learn what healthy relationships actually look like, you're in the right place. I get it. I was there too. At 65, I started learning the things I wish I'd known decades ago, like how to see the patterns, why we keep repeating them, and how to finally treat ourselves with the respect we always deserve. And somewhere along the way, I realized something that changed everything. When we don't understand our patterns, we pass them on. Not because we're bad parents, but because no one ever showed us anything different. That realization drives everything I do. Like a lighthouse, steady and strong, let's all shine a little brighter today. Your attachment style describes how you tend to respond to closeness, conflict, separation, and emotional uncertainty in relationships. It's not a character flaw or a permanent label. You may also respond differently in relationships depending on the person and how safe you feel. The 4 commonly recognized attachment styles are secure, anxious preoccupied, dismissive avoidant, and disorganized, or also known as fearful avoidant. Someone with a secure attachment style is generally comfortable with both closeness and independence. They can express their feelings, ask for what they need, and trust that disagreements do not automatically mean the relationship is ending. They still experience hurt, jealousy, and conflict. The difference is that they can usually work through those feelings without panicking, shutting down, or trying to control the other person. Growing up as the family scapegoat doesn't automatically prevent you from developing secure attachment. You may have had one with a safe relationship, such as a grandparent, teacher, friend, or another adult who listened to you and treated you with respect. You can also develop security as an adult, which is sometimes called earned security attachment. Now, someone with an anxious attachment style often wants closeness, but worries that the other person will leave, lose interest, or stop loving them. If you grew up being blamed or treated differently from your siblings, you may have learned that your place in the family was never secure. You become highly aware of other people's moods and constantly look for signs that something is wrong. In adult relationships, you may seek reassurance frequently, over-explain yourself, become afraid when someone pulls away, or work harder to keep the relationship together. Someone with a dismissive avoidant attachment style usually values independence so strongly that emotional closeness feels uncomfortable or unsafe. If your feelings were repeatedly dismissed or used against you, you learn not to depend on anyone. Instead of asking for help, you handle everything yourself. You may minimize your feelings, avoid difficult conversations, or pull away when someone becomes emotionally close. From the outside, this can look like confidence. Underneath it may be the belief that needing other people will eventually lead to disappointment or hurt. Someone with a disorganized attachment style, which is also called fearful avoidant attachment, that's a mouthful, may want love and closeness while also fearing them. I have sometimes referred to this pattern as anxious avoidant attachment. This can develop when the people who were supposed to keep you safe were also the people who hurt you, blamed you, or frightened you. You learn to reach for connection, while also expecting that connection to become painful. In adult relationships, this can create a push-pull pattern. You may become anxious when someone pulls away, but then feel uncomfortable when they move closer. You want to trust them, but part of you remains prepared to be hurt. The family scapegoat role doesn't determine which attachment style you would develop, but it can influence what you learn to expect from relationships. If love felt conditional, you may chase reassurance. If your needs were dismissed, you may stop expressing them. If closeness brought both comfort and pain, you may alternate between reaching for people and pushing them away. These responses are not proof that something is wrong with you. They may be ways you learn to protect yourself in relationships that didn't feel emotionally safe. The problem is that the patterns that once helped you protect yourself don't just stay in childhood. They can affect your friendships, your workplace relationships, and especially your romantic relationships. I didn't understand how deeply these patterns had affected my own relationships until much later in my life. When I think about my attachment style, two experiences with my mother stand out. When I was young, my mother used to tuck me into bed at night. It was one of those small routines that made me feel close to her and cared for. Then one night, she suddenly stopped. I let her know I was going to bed so she could tuck me in, and she simply said, "Nope, you're old enough now. You can go to bed on your own." That was it. There was no warning and no gradual change. Something that had made me feel safe and secure was suddenly gone. I remember feeling crushed. I couldn't understand why she had stopped or what I had done wrong. How could she make a decision like that without even asking me what I wanted or needed? To an adult, it might seem like a small moment, but to me, it felt like her love and attention could disappear without warning. Another incident happened when I was around 10 or 11. I was about to take my first airplane trip to Florida with my grandparents. A couple of nights before we were to leave, I was already in bed when my heart started racing, and I felt as though I couldn't breathe. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew I was scared. I went downstairs and told my mother. She looked at me and said, "Oh, you're just having a heart attack. Go back to bed." Then she continued watching television. There was no comfort, no question about what I was feeling, and no attempt to help me calm down. I went back to bed and dealt with it on my own. But the anxiety didn't end that night. For the next year or so, I continued having times when I felt as though I couldn't breathe. Sometimes I had to go outside to get air. Those situations were part of a much larger pattern in which my needs and emotional safety didn't seem nearly as important as my siblings' needs. What I learned growing up was comfort could be withdrawn without warning, and when I was frightened or distressed, I usually had to handle it alone. Those lessons followed me into my adult relationships. I wanted closeness and reassurance, but I was also waiting for people to withdraw, dismiss me, or hurt me. I became anxious when someone pulled away, yet distrustful when someone came close. I didn't know the term attachment style then. I only knew that relationships never felt completely safe. Recognizing your attachment style can help you understand why you respond the way you do. But awareness is only the beginning. Here are 5 ways you can begin building greater security in yourself and your relationships. Number 1, notice what happens when you feel rejected. Start by noticing your first reaction when someone disappoints you, becomes distant, or doesn't respond the way you expected. Do you chase after them for reassurance? Do you start explaining yourself before they have even blamed you? Or do you shut down, become angry, or pull away before they have the chance to reject you? You don't have to judge yourself or stop the reaction immediately. Simply notice it. Naming your reaction creates a pause between what you feel and what you do next. In that pause, you can choose whether to follow the old pattern or respond differently. And number 2, ask whether this belongs to the present or the past. When something happens in a current relationship, the feelings it creates may be much older. A partner who needs some quiet time may remind you of a parent who withdrew love. A friend who doesn't return your message may bring back the feeling that you don't matter. A disagreement may feel like the beginning of rejection, even when the other person is simply trying to resolve a problem. Before reacting, ask yourself, what is actually happening right now? And what am I expecting because of what happened in my family? This doesn't mean dismissing your instincts or convincing yourself that every relationship is safe. Sometimes the person really is withdrawing, mistreating you, or refusing to communicate. The goal is to examine the current relationship clearly. The feeling may come from the past, but your next decision belongs to the present. And number 3, name what you need instead of testing the relationship. When you are afraid of rejection, you may test people without realizing it. You might become quiet and wait to see whether they notice. You might push them away to see whether they come after you. You might say, "Oh, it doesn't matter," when it matters very much. You may even start an argument because any reaction feels better than being ignored. Testing the relationship usually creates conflict. The other person may not understand what you need, and their response can reinforce your fear that you don't matter. Try naming your need directly. You can say, "I'm feeling uncertain, and I need some reassurance." Or, "I need a little time to calm down, but I do want to finish this conversation." Or simply, "What happened hurt me, and I want to talk about it." This may feel uncomfortable, especially if your needs were dismissed or used against you growing up. Start with someone who has shown that they can listen without blaming or punishing you. The goal is not to make another person responsible for all your feelings. It is to let them know what is happening instead of expecting them to guess. And number 4, pay attention to consistency, not intensity. Some relationships feel exciting right from the beginning. The attention is intense, the connection happens quickly, and you may feel as though you have finally found someone who truly understands you. But intensity is not the same as safety. Pay attention to who continues showing up after the excitement settles. Who listens when you disagree? Who respects your boundaries? Who keeps their word? Who makes room for your feelings without using them against you later? You don't have to judge a relationship by its most exciting day or its worst day. Look at the pattern. A secure relationship may not always feel dramatic or exciting. Sometimes it feels steady, predictable, and even unfamiliar. If you grew up surrounded by emotional uncertainty, calmness may take time to recognize as safety. And number 5, stop abandoning yourself to keep someone else close. Being securely attached to yourself means staying connected to what you feel, need, and know, even when someone else is disappointed with you. If you grew up as the family scapegoat, you may have learned to give up parts of yourself to keep your place in a relationship. You said yes when you wanted to say no. You accepted blame to end an argument. You stayed quiet because telling the truth might make someone withdraw. Each time you do that, you may keep the relationship for the time being, but you lose a little trust in yourself. Before changing yourself to keep someone close, ask, what am I giving up to keep this relationship? Believe what your feelings are telling you. Honor your boundaries. Allow yourself to have needs, preferences, and opinions that are different from someone else's. This doesn't mean you never compromise. Healthy relationships require compromise from both people. But compromise is different from repeatedly abandoning yourself so that the other person will stay. Secure attachment is not only about trusting that another person won't leave you. It is also about trusting that you will not leave yourself. You may not have received the security you needed as a child, but you can begin creating it now. Your attachment patterns may help explain how you learn to survive your relationships, but they don't have to decide how you experience relationships for the rest of your life. If you grew up without secure attachment, you may worry about repeating those patterns with your own children. That worry shows that you are paying attention, and that is where change begins. Imagine your child comes to you the way I went to my mother, scared, with their heart racing and feeling as though they can't catch their breath. After making sure they are physically okay, it would be easy to glance up from your phone and say, "You're fine," and go back to scrolling. But when you put down the phone and say, "Tell me what's happening. I'm listening," you give your child something I needed that night. You show them that their fear matters and that you are there for them. The most powerful thing you can offer is consistency, not perfection, but responding with care as often as you can. And when you miss the moment, you can return, apologize, and try again. That teaches your child that relationships can survive mistakes and that someone they love will come back and make things right. Breaking a generational pattern doesn't happen overnight. It happens through small, repeated moments of listening, responding, and repairing, rather than automatically repeating what was done to you. You didn't choose the attachment styles you developed as a child. They grew from what you learned about love, safety, closeness, and what happened when you needed comfort. If you were the family scapegoat, you may have learned that belonging was uncertain, your needs could be dismissed, and blame could arrive without warning. Those lessons may explain why you chase reassurance, pull away, or struggle to trust the people closest to you. But an attachment style is not a life sentence. You can learn to pause before reacting, separate the past from the present, ask for what you need, and pay attention to the people who consistently treat you with care and respect. This week, notice one moment when an old attachment pattern appears. Instead of judging yourself, ask, "What am I afraid will happen, and what do I need right now?" You may not be able to change what happened when you reached for comfort as a child, but today, you can choose not to abandon yourself. And with one small choice at a time, you can begin creating the safety and connection you needed all along. Whether you're starting to understand yourself more clearly or learning to do things differently, you're building the skills to grow into the person you're meant to be. Listening is important, but real change happens when you use what you've learned. If no one has told you lately, everything will be okay. Tomorrow is a new day, and with it comes new hope. As I conclude this episode, I must state that this podcast is designed solely for educational and entertainment purposes. While I bring my experience as a parent and grandparent, it's essential that you know I am not a licensed therapist. This podcast is not a substitute for professional advice from a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. Got it? Awesome. Until next time, what is one thing you are grateful for?